The air was thick with tension as Mark sat alone in his dimly lit apartment, engrossed in the pages of an old, leather-bound novel he had found at a dusty second-hand bookstore. The book, titled Fateful Echoes, seemed to beckon him with its mysterious allure. Little did he know that the words within its pages would soon unfold a nightmarish reality. As Mark delved deeper into the gripping tale, he became increasingly captivated by the intricate details of the plot. The story centered around a small, forgotten town plagued by a malevolent force that manifested the dark desires of those who dared to read about it. As Mark turned each page, he felt a shiver crawl up his spine, an eerie feeling that the boundary between fiction and reality was slowly disintegrating. The protagonist of the novel, a man much like Mark himself, stumbled upon a hidden truth. The characters in the book began to experience horrifying events that mirrored the pages they had read. The novel hinted at a relentless killer, born from the darkest recesses of the human psyche, who would emerge when the moon hung high in the night sky. Dismissive of the notion that a work of fiction could dictate reality, Mark scoffed at the idea of a killer stepping out from the shadows. The clock struck midnight, and Mark decided to retire to bed, pushing aside the gnawing unease that had settled in the pit of his stomach. However, as Mark lay in bed, he was startled by a distant, echoing scream. The hairs on the back of his neck stood on end, and a cold sweat broke out on his forehead. The screams grew louder, and Mark realized with a sinking feeling that they were coming from the street below. Unable to resist the dreadful curiosity, Mark approached his window and peered through the curtains. To his horror, he witnessed a scene straight from the pages of Fateful Echoes. A hooded figure, obscured by the shadows, was mercilessly pursuing a terrified victim down the desolate street. Mark's heart pounded in his chest as he realized the chilling truth. The events unfolding before him were a grim reflection of the novel's plot. Panic set in as he fumbled to find the passage in the book that described the killer's motives and methods. The pages turned on their own, as if guided by an unseen force, until Mark stumbled upon the horrifying revelation. According to the novel, the killer was driven by a malevolent force, a manifestation of the collective darkness dwelling within the human soul. The only way to escape the impending doom was to break the cursed cycle. But how could one man defy the twisted fate foretold in the pages of a supernatural novel? As Mark grappled with the unfolding nightmare, he knew that time was running out. The ominous moon hung high in the night sky, casting an eerie glow over the unsuspecting town. The relentless footsteps of the approaching killer echoed through the silence, drawing nearer with each passing moment. Terrified and desperate, Mark clutched the cursed novel in his hands, realizing that the only way to break the cycle was to confront the malevolent force head-on. Little did he know that the pages he held contained the key to his own destiny, entwined with the dark and twisted narrative of Fateful Echoes. Dread settled in Mark's chest as he ventured into the moonlit streets, guided by the haunting words of the novel. The air felt thick, charged with an otherworldly energy that sent shivers down his spine. The echoes of his footsteps merged with those of the approaching killer, creating an ominous symphony that seemed to reverberate through the very fabric of reality. As Mark reached the heart of the town, he found himself standing in the same eerie setting described in Fateful Echoes. The cobblestone streets glistened with a thin layer of mist, and the flickering streetlights cast long, distorted shadows. The air was laden with a sense of impending doom, and the oppressive silence was broken only by the distant screams of the fleeing victim. With each step, Mark felt the weight of the supernatural forces at play, and the lines between the fiction he had read and the terrifying reality he now faced blurred into a nightmarish blend. He clutched the book tighter, its pages seeming to pulse with an unholy energy that resonated with the malevolent force looming in the shadows. Suddenly, the hooded figure emerged from the darkness, a spectral presence with a face concealed by shadows. The killer's eyes glowed in unnatural crimson, and a sinister grin played on the edge of its obscured features. Mark could feel the malevolence radiating from the entity, an embodiment of the darkest corners of human nature. As the killer closed in, Mark's mind raced to find a way to break free from the cursed narrative. The words of the novel echoed in his mind, revealing a hidden truth. To defy fate, he must confront the malevolent force with courage and conviction. The realization sent a surge of determination through Mark's veins, despite the paralyzing fear that gripped him. In a desperate act of defiance, Mark confronted the hooded figure, holding the open book as if it were a shield against the encroaching darkness. The killer paused, its malevolent gaze fixed on the ancient pages that seemed to radiate an otherworldly light. Mark began to recite the words from the novel, a desperate plea to break the curse and free the town from the grip of the malevolent force. The air crackled with an otherworldly energy as Mark's words resonated with the supernatural forces at play. A sudden gust of wind swept through the streets, carrying with it a haunting whisper that seemed to echo the agony of tortured souls. The killer recoiled, its sinister grin faltering as if the very essence of its existence was threatened. As Mark continued to recite the passages, the oppressive atmosphere began to lift. The moon, once an ominous presence, dimmed its glow, and the mist that clung to the cobblestone streets dispersed into the night. The hooded figure, now devoid of its malevolence, slowly dissipated into the shadows, leaving behind an eerie silence. Mark stood in the aftermath, the cursed novel still open in his hands. The town, once held captive by the nightmarish events foretold in fateful echoes, began to awaken from its supernatural slumber. The echoes of the screams faded, replaced by the tentative sounds of life returning to the streets. Exhausted but triumphant, Mark closed the book, sealing the malevolent force within its ancient pages. The cursed cycle had been broken, and the town was free from the grip of the supernatural horror. As he walked away from the moonlit streets, Mark couldn't shake the lingering unease that the boundary between fiction and reality was forever altered, a chilling reminder of the dark power that could be unleashed by the turn of a page. In the days that followed, Mark struggled to come to terms with the harrowing experience that had unfolded in the wake of fateful echoes. The cursed novel, now closed and tucked away on a dusty shelf, served as a haunting reminder of the thin line between imagination and the tangible horrors that lurk in the shadows. Despite the town's return to normalcy, an air of unease lingered in the atmosphere. The events that transpired had left an indelible mark on Mark's psyche, and he found himself haunted by the thought that the malevolent force within the pages of the novel could still wield its influence. Sleep eluded him, and when he closed his eyes, vivid nightmares transported him back to the moonlit streets where the boundary between fiction and reality disintegrated. The hooded figure, its malevolent gaze fixed upon him, haunted his dreams, a silent reminder that the darkness within the human soul could never be fully contained. Desperate for answers, Mark revisited the novel, scouring its pages for clues about the nature of the malevolent force that had gripped the town. The passages spoke of ancient curses and forgotten rituals, hinting at a legacy of darkness that transcended the confines of the book. It became clear that the malevolence was not confined to the narrative but was a force that transcended the pages of fateful echoes. As Mark delved deeper into the mysteries hidden within the novel, he discovered an ominous prophecy that foretold of a cycle repeating every century. The malevolent force, once unleashed, sought to mirror the dark desires of those who dared to read about it, bringing the horrors of the narrative to life. The only way to break the cycle permanently was to confront the source of the malevolence and sever its connection to the cursed words. Driven by a newfound sense of purpose, Mark embarked on a perilous journey to unravel the secrets behind fateful echoes. The trail led him to ancient libraries, occult archives, and forgotten realms where forbidden knowledge lay dormant. Along the way, he encountered those who had suffered the consequences of the malevolent force, their tales of horror and despair echoing through the centuries. As Mark approached the climax of his quest, he found himself standing in the ruins of an ancient ritual site, the very place where the malevolence had taken root. The air crackled with a sinister energy, and the moon cast an eerie glow upon the desolate landscape. Armed with the knowledge gleaned from the cursed novel, Mark prepared to confront the source of the malevolent force. With each incantation and ritualistic gesture, Mark felt the weight of the centuries-old curse bearing down upon him. The very fabric of reality seemed to warp and twist as the malevolent force resisted its impending dissolution. In a final, desperate act, Mark recited the incantation that would sever the connection between the curse and the narrative. A blinding light enveloped him, and the air echoed with a cacophony of otherworldly wails. As the light subsided, Mark found himself standing in the ruins, the malevolent force vanquished. The curse that had plagued the town for centuries had been broken, and the ancient darkness that lurked within fateful echoes had been extinguished. The town, once again freed from the grip of supernatural horror, gradually returned to a semblance of normalcy. Mark, however, knew that the echoes of the past would forever linger in the shadows of his memory. As he closed the final chapter on the cursed novel, he couldn't shake the feeling that the line between fiction and reality, though restored, would forever remain etched in his mind. A chilling reminder of the price paid to confront the malevolent forces that lurk in the depths of human imagination.
Like, subscribe, and click on notifications that allow you to stay up to date with the news and not miss the video from the channel, where there will be many more horror stories.